This is Natrona One's 2018 facility plan meeting with the State Construction Department, the School Facilities Division, and we'll introduce ourselves first around the table.
Paul Severson, Design and Construction Administrator for the department.
Amber Leach, Planning.
Troy Decker, Planning.
Steve Hopkins, Superintendent.
Mike Jays, Executive Director.
Dennis Bay, Executive Director.
Doug Tennyson, Facilities.
John McComey, Director with SFD.
Kelly Kaufman, Planning.
Okay, welcome everybody. I'm going to go ahead and turn off video. So we've been having streaming issues. Okay, so I think we got everybody here. I'll just, for Scott and for Amy, I'll go ahead and just highlight them, and if they show up, I'll include them. Shelby, if she comes, we'll include her as well. And Brandon Finney, our Finance and Planning Administrator, just stepped in. Okay, with that then, one of the things we just kind of did this year, every once in a while we send these to the governor's office or a legislator, whoever asks for, we just put the Google Earth images of your different campuses and stuff, just to be illustrative. So we just kind of included those. That was that one Google Earth that I showed you earlier that has all of your buildings on there. So just at the front end. So one of the things that within the last 2 years we've really tried to improve, and that is take care of all the little details in our AIM database and not spend 10 people's time here talking about the details of whether or not your data is correct. So Charlie's the last couple of years has done just an outstanding job at really refining the data and making sure it's as accurate as possible, and we should, because you guys, it affects your block grant payment. So specifically acreage does affect your the number of your groundskeepers. So we have that updated, and you guys have confirmed that you've also believe that's as accurate as we can get it. So we appreciate that. Land leases are important as well, just for us to keep track of those. So we have that identified within here. We don't have to look at the details, but you do have a land lease. So one of the things that you've mentioned in here is Red Creek land is leased, and you want to discuss maybe the possible acquisition of that land, and if we have any balance of funds, Brandon, that they could purchase the Red Creek land with. Is that correct, District? That's an interest of yours or not?
No.
Did I misunderstand that?
Yeah.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. So the question was just an offhand question. I remember last year, 2 years ago, there were some funds identified to purchase land for the district, and I was just curious if that was still available.
Yeah, we used to have pots of money. We used to get like demo pot, land, planning. A lot of that is all lapsed. So during when the governor in December was trying to reconcile the budget, they did a sweep of funds. So we did a reversion of funds, and a lot of it was the land, because we had some money that was back in 2011, 12, 13. I mean, it's some pretty old money. So they took all that back. And then during legislature session, we had a couple of remaining funds, land buckets, and they reverted those funds as well. So.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say is there is no money anywhere to purchase, like, not that we're wanting to purchase land, but at one point in time we had $1 million set aside for a new elementary site. Right.
So all that money has been reverted.
Okay.
It's now probably in state treasurer, wherever it's at. But the only thing that we do have, so what we do now, the new process would be, you have a need, so capacity, or maybe it's condition. If it's condition, your existing facility, maybe it's on like 3 acres. It's a neighborhood school. Doesn't meet the acreage requirements, so we'd go out, get a new 10-acre lot. We'd put that in the budget as a capital request. It'd go up through the commission, select committee, JAC, and get appropriated. The other opportunity would be capacity. You have need, you go buy 10 acres outside of town, build a new green site. So pretty cut and dry. The only other buckets that they now limited us to is, we call it the Land Opportunity Fund, and we've got like 750 plus. There's about 239,000, so you're looking at close to $1 million in that, and that's for you have some land, schools on it. You'd like to get that piece there, and Grandma finally dies, and the house goes up for sale. Now you can right size your portfolio there and acquire that adjacent property to the school. or maybe parking, something's really tight, you need just a little bit more for parking or something. So we have money, but nothing like the old days of 11, 10, there's buckets of here's $3-4 million. That sort of has dried up and gone away.
Okay, I just typed. Read, if you see something I said that shouldn't be there, just let me know. Okay, I kind of linked these two together. Sorry about that. Okay, so yeah, just to emphasize then, so basically they have no appropriations for land purchases in the future.
All land buckets are
Have
gone
been
except
gone.
for the land opportunity.
Yeah, okay, got it.
That's the only one left, and we got a 750,000 during this session, and we have roughly 239 from previous appropriations. So
Yeah, so the 750 is not available till July 1st. Right?
Yeah, and then in order to access, you'd say, hey, we got a piece of property, that we'd like to right size a school for some parking or something. You go to the commission, get some land due diligence, you tie it up, do a survey, geotech or something on it. It's outlined in the rules and regs, and then come forward to approval after your appraisals and all that, and then you get the money, we turn it on in AIM, create a project, go to the title company, and close.
Okay, property profiles. It's important to have these updated. You don't have to read all these, obviously, but our database, we just export these specific property profiles out of the database. Our addresses and all this stuff, we shoot over to WDE. And in the past, I don't think our data is matched as well as it is now. So I think we have a very, very close matching of data that they have and that we have in both databases. The gross square footage is important. What we get back from WDE is the ADM. And so they report that to us. We plug it into our square foot calculator. It's going to produce X amount of allowable square feet. We'll be talking about that a little bit later here. But out of that gross square footage, then you have allowable based on your number of students, ADM, and then that ends up generating your major maintenance calculation that is sent to you in July. So this is pretty good, important information. Of course, your status of each building and stuff like that. So let's talk about, I know that these were checked and I kind of asked Amber, but I'll let you guys speak for yourselves. AIM update form filled out. So apparently there's been some changes and you guys have sent AIM update form. Is that correct? Am I reading that correct? And if so, for what?
The one that I remember is for the ag building. I didn't see those.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Hello, this is Amy.
Hi, Amy.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm sorry to interrupt. I snuck on the call. I just wanted to let you know I did send in a 705 form for the NCHS vocational building. However, we still have charges that are pending against it, so it won't be closed and taken off the property profile report until a later date.
Okay, sounds good.
That's why that.
Okay, so right now it's still going to be closed. I take it it's closed, but not active.
It's neither. It's still active because we still have money that's going against it. There's still a capital construction work order.
Okay.
At least that's what Amber had told me.
Okay.
I mean, Janet Garrison.
Amy, could you do a little research and find out what that is? Because I can't think of anything. The only thing that we have open, you say it's capital construction?
Well, she said there were still charges, so I probably should not have assumed.
Is that the CTE building that was torn down for this last
Yeah, that
phase?
was torn down a year ago.
Your second line up there, Troy, that building was demolished in phase 3, not 5 and 6.
Right out of the gate.
Yeah.
It's cool. I never get to touch district notes, so this is really exciting.
You want me to?
Yeah. Okay, good. So it has been demolished.
Yeah,
It's in phase 3. Okay. So Charlie, my question of you okay, so it should be demolished now, but you guys sent in a form, famous forms.
Sent in, but I'm hearing there's charges outstanding. There's a work order open.
Right.
I've never messed with the access to those. I'm learning wolves in the other side of it on the AIM, but if she's got something pending, that's why they don't want to pre-close it.
No,
And
this was capital construction. There shouldn't be anything.
I wouldn't think, but
Would you like
it
me to
could
go
be
last,
something that's left open that should have been closed.
Oh, yeah. We just had a few
Yeah.
on the list, you know,
Yeah.
3 years ago.
Really?
Or task list. We'll double check on that, make sure everything's cool. What we don't want is outstanding payments. We close the building and now you can't report a payment toward the building.
One place you might look.
Well, here, this is what was in the email from Janet. She says you have work orders that are not in complete status. All work orders/phases must be incomplete on the building before changing the status to demolish.
Yep.
The place you might look, Amy, is there was a major maintenance work order for some abatement.
Okay,
That's the only thing I could think of.
okay, I'll look into it. Thank you.
And then let us know if Scott joins you as well.
Scott is here.
Oh, he is. Good
Yes.
afternoon, Scott.
Hello.
You were a very, very important person. We were waiting.
I was tied up on some other opportunities. I apologize.
No problem.
It wasn't one of those opportunities I sent you, was it, Scott? Sunday?
No, but that sure made me laugh, Doug. I appreciate that.
Okay, we will follow through. We've got that listed, and we'll follow through with that and make sure we don't close it until we make sure everything's reported. And then, Amy, I assume that once everything's good, you'll get back to us and assure us that everything's been paid, and then we can go ahead and change the status.
So what should
Absolutely.
payment or?
Confirm final payment for you called it the CTE building, didn't you? Yeah, CTE building prior to changing status code. Okay, we also have a couple things here. She just highlighted it. I think you guys had discussed some enhancements, and so have these just update us.
Is on the list of enhancements, we noticed that we didn't see those synthetic fields at Kelly Walsh. And we only saw one field at NC, and there's two fields at each.
Okay, so what you listed here, these three, you're not seeing up there, and so have these ran through the commission for acknowledgement? That's my first question.
I don't know, they've been there for 10 years.
They've been there before
Forever.
the commission came.
Okay, so
Gotcha.
it's
They just weren't captured.
so it's a formality. Great. Yeah.
Well, they aren't enhancements then, if they were before the commission existed.
Well,
But the synthetic turfs, though, those were post-commission.
Well, the two at Kelly Walsh, I'm sure are. Those were done in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
The
so
ones-
those should be enhancements.
NC is what, 2008 maybe?
The track,
No,
Or
that's the football and the field and the track.
the football field would have been 2008. The replacement at the same time we did Stefano, but the original wasn't.
So the top two should be enhancements, but the other one's just excess square footage if it exists, because that building's old.
Yeah, when is it? How old is that track storage building?
The shingles had blown off of it, I know that, so.
I mean, is that prior 2003?
I don't know. I was told it was built by students.
Mm-hmm.
No?
You guys get a permit on it?
I've been on projects like
Okay, so that's at Kelly Walsh, right?
Looks like it was built by students.
And it's still there?
Yes.
Okay, so let's look.
Is it the one on the west end of the field?
Yeah.
It's on the south.
This is kinda small.
Southwest.
Yeah.
So we got a swimming pool, that track storage, garage?
That's Kelly Walsh. We're talking NC, guys.
That said, the note said Kelly Walsh.
Yeah.
Oh, it did?
Okay.
Yeah, it's Kelly Walsh.
Oh, Kelly Walsh, yes.
Okay, we're good?
We're good there.
Okay, so back up to this one, if I can find it.
Kelly Walsh
Again.
track
Storage. Right there.
Garage.
That's it.
It's active. It's good. There's no, yeah, it's that, and that's a 1982 building, and it's just grandfathered in, and away we roll. So it's not an enhancement. Now, I think on those buildings, I think they have to use 10%. Is that correct?
On track storage
Yeah.
building?
Or are they regular?
No, it'd be regular.
Okay. All right. Can I remove this?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So these synthetic fields. So I can tell you that way back in the day when I took from Teresa Kunkel spreadsheets and all kinds of information from all the school districts. I know I talked to you multiple times, captured everything I could out of there. But these synthetic fields were done during the existence of SFC/SFD. Therefore, if we haven't received a enhancement acknowledgement, we need to receive those from the district, flow through Paul, we'll report them to the commission. And then once those flow through the commission, the commission approves them or acknowledges them, then Janet will put them into our system and we'll update your enhancements.
We'll go back through this and get those in there.
And you just recently had some major maintenance requests in association with those too.
Right. But actually, I put placeholders in for both NC and Kelly Wolf.
Yeah, and well, we're a little non sequitur here. We'll get to it. let's get to it.
Okay, we're good then?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, projects. Go over my desk. I'm sorry. I ran this off. It's a hard copy. Okay, all these projects, I wanted to kind of walk down them one at a time here and make sure. So you guys have your section. We really appreciate when you guys kind of do this kind of stuff and you tell us where things are. And then our notes are down here, and we want to make sure that off of your notes, what we do is accurate as possible. So 1101, she'll bring that to bar none, bus loop. Okay, okay. So in that one, Brandon, then it's just project complete, no funds remaining. Okay, 1102 is the bar none addition. Bar none addition, there's about 600,000 left in that. You guys said on that one, it's in warranty period, review next year. Is that good? Okay, if you hear anything different. 1103, New Pathways Innovation Center. There's about 4 million left in that one. And so 1103. That is 1103. And there's 4 million left there. I said, now, well, okay, so that project is or isn't complete? Is complete?
They're in there. Is it their second
Current
or third year?
warranty period?
It's second year, so they're
Okay.
Are you done with warranty then?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's no reason we can revert monies, correct? On the
That's
pathways?
1103.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we can revert monies here?
Okay.
Yep.
Revert.
Although I will let you know I am not going to revert dollars on that. That has to do with relationship we are currently having through our AG with a vendor on that project. So we're going to leave that project until we get that issue resolved.
Which issue? There's been so many.
Ramsor.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
if there's a legal matter, then we could just leave it.
We're
Yep.
responding
1103
to some
review
court
next year.
requests on that right now.
So I'll say review next year, 2019.
Yep.
See where you get.
Okay. Okay, 1104 is the CY Junior Middle School main building demolition. And there's about 900,000 left in that project. That's 1104. So
Done.
revert funds, great. 1105, we have Forest Oil Elementary School residence demolition. It's completely expended.
We reverted that one, 17.
Okay.
Got it.
No funds remaining. Okay.
Yep.
Now 1106.
So you said that one was reverted already?
Yeah, 11.
Last year.
Yep, 1105. Forest Oil.
Yeah, so you can, that one we don't have to do anything with.
No.
It's already done.
I just put no funds remaining.
Well, but we don't have to take any more actions to close it or anything. It's already closed. Or is it closed?
Yeah, it's left on like a status, all the money is, unencumbered. And then we revert it, but we leave it open in case something ever comes on. Say the roof blows off or something needed.
Forest oil is
You know,
gone.
The thing is,
Okay. Well,
it's
but-
kind of like a soft close.
Yeah, because then you know the total cost of ownership for the concept. Then you could, if you get another appropriation, say it's Kelly Walsh. You're gonna leave, we would revert all the money, but we then leave it soft closed in case Kelly Walsh needed something. Then when it gets a new appropriation, it goes to the same project and you know your total cost of ownership on the books.
The way JJ explained it to me in terms of a project coming across, you initially buy land with an appropriation, and you get the number 1,100. Then what you do is, okay, you bought the land, you're not doing anything for a while. You soft close it. Once you decide to appropriate for design or whatever the next step is, you reopen it with 1,100, but re-identify it as the next stage as design mode. And then that money is tracked through the whole project from the very beginning as it develops through, but you soft close it during these periodical times
Yeah,
in the
but
middle.
they don't even own the land for forest oil. I mean, there's nothing
I was
left
just trying to
there.
talk
Yeah.
about the soft close.
Or
And,
oil.
like last year, we soft closed it from that stage of that part of it.
Okay, so
Kelly
it's
Walsh?
already been reverted, correct?
Mhm.
Okay, 1106, new K-5 elementary school.
Oh yeah, you're right.
There's about 2 million there, give or take. So this is 1106. Now,
Yep.
this is warranty period, right?
Warranty period, and we have ongoing project there here. We're doing a path for the city at that
Oh,
location.
that's the open concept school we walked,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay,
I remember it.
so we have again, give or take, we've got about 1.9 million. Do you need 1.9 million to do a pathway?
It's a big pathway. This isn't a little pathway.
Okay, is that up the hill? Is it like up the hill behind, up to that residence behind it?
It actually doesn't go anywhere. It's just the sidewalks.
It goes to the edge of the property and stops.
It's kind of like a wildlife touring
That side.
walk.
For 1.9.
Okay, so
We're leaving that for the
what-
1 month walk and then we're fixing all of
So what I'm asking for is, go ahead and wait till all
So I
next
would
year.
assume, because we've processed the contract for that.
it. Correct.
So the 1.9 is remaining after that contract.
It's gotta be, unless you didn't encumber the money. Because the contract's executed.
Okay.
For the sidewalk.
So no, we don't need $1.9 million.
Is the sidewalk simply the stretch required by the city? Is it addressing the sidewalks that were incomplete in the first
That's
round?
under warranty. The plan for that piece was to wait till the 11th month and just do everything.
So you probably ought to call Bunky Laux and tell him, he hit me up during the session about it. So we haven't got around.
Well, I don't think we need 1.9.
1.5, 1 point,
Revert?
revert it all.
Oh, no, I'd say,
What do you want to leave as cushion?
What if you just left $1 million, even
oh,
million?
we don't need that much.
Right.
I'm thinking we leave, what, 250,000? Is there anything in that pathway that could take us beyond 250,000?
Are they having to put any culverts in or anything?
One.
Okay,
Yeah, and it's in the.
Brandon,
That's
take
it.
these numbers right here.
I can't imagine anything over that.
I would say leave approximately 250,000 or something in that range.
Okay.
300, you said it was 1.9, leave 300,000, take 1.6 out.
Oh, sorry, did I give you up? Right here, these two numbers. And we want to,
14.
yeah, 14,726, 135 minus your 12,893, 628.
I just can't
Point
imagine anything
21.
we would have happen at that building that costs more than that we would need out of construction
1.8
dollars.
million.
Okay, 1.8 million,
Yeah.
and then that's total.
So leave. what did you say,
1.5.
250?
We'll revert.
250 ought to be plenty, as long as you agree with me.
Okay. So we're gonna revert, how much? 1,500,000, give or take?
Revert all but 250,000.
Okay, got it.
So it's a nice even number. You got $250,000. Do something.
Because there's a chance we'll have change orders in that thing, but again, they'll be in the thousands,
Yeah,
not
they are.
tens of thousands.
Cool. 1108.
Okay, we're good there. All right, 1107. So that's the new Kelly Walsh High School.
1107.
There's about 1 million, give or take. 1.2 million left in that.
We
So the
can't,
last one was 1106, right?
That's Journey.
Yes,
That's
this is
the
1107.
revert all but 250, right?
Yep,
Okay.
1107.
And then 1107, revert everything.
no.
Oh golly,
Make sure
there's,
you guys
hold
pay
on.
attention.
Sorry, I'm missing a little. We
Yeah.
have about 10,200,000 left. 10 million.
What?
Am I reading that right?
No, you are not reading that right.
New Kelly Walsh, 99 million. What's been expended is, 89 million. Okay, let's go back up here.
There is not $10 million left on that
New
project.
Kelly Walsh. Am I misreading that?
How current is that?
Hold on.
Well,
Let
that
me
was
pull the-
that was
this
ran in
was
December.
December.
Has a
but
lot
I-
happened between now and December?
Does that somehow include a share of the additional fund? Because that doesn't show up here anywhere.
What additional funds? Another.
They had an additional appropriation, but it doesn't have a
The
project.
4 million? No.
It's not in there?
I don't think so. I think it would be debited, credited.
So I'm just going off the report and it says 10 million's
Oh,
left.
I know where that is. That's in design.
Yeah, you're right.
That's the design. I
Yeah.
forgot.
That wasn't used?
It wasn't
Oh,
used.
Okay.
There's a huge amount
Okay.
of money in
Yeah.
design.
All right. So Mike and guys, I'm not trying to push you. I'm just trying to encourage us to so are we going to leave 100% of $10 million sitting on the table, or are we going to return it back to the state?
It's
1107.
We're not going to revert that this year, Troy. I'm going to recommend to the district that they hang on to that
we
until
gotta
next
finish
year.
the project up. We don't quite know. We got some open issues.
Right.
We know getting
And
this
we'll have a
line money
discussion
will be
after
a
this about some of
challenge.
those open issues. So I'm
Okay.
going to advise that you guys say no.
I'm not ready.
Keep the whole 10 million. Got it. Review next year.
Yeah.
Okay. 1108.
You'll need it because it'll be the second year of the biennium. And you'll be out of money.
1108.
Okay.
There's no funds. Oh, actually, that was reverted previously. It's already reverted. Right? That's the new Lincoln Elementary School. So 1108, it's already been reverted. Okay, 1109, if I go too fast, Brandon, let me know. Midwest Elementary School planning for remedy.
2 years ago.
Yeah, it's already been expended. There's none left.
Was that that roofing project?
1109, we're good?
Roof project, they looked at the whole school, but Main likes the roof.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, 1110 is Natrona High School new construction / renovation. About 6 million left. So 1110 is right here. Give or take 6 million for Natrona High.
Is it done?
The SBAC, the only thing that's left?
There's warranty issues on the main building and then that's about the MAC.
We're working through a list of a lot of incompletes.
So 6 million, you want to just review next year also?
Yes, please.
Okay. Paul, you're good?
I agree.
Okay, we'll do that. 1111 is new NCH Student Fitness Activity Center. It's like 55,000 left on it.
Yeah, there's an outstanding deductive change order from AP we're waiting on.
Okay, review next year.
Yes.
1112 North Casper Modular. It's been expended and gone.
Yeah, it's
Right.
gone.
So no funds remaining on 1112. Good, doing okay?
Mhm.
1113 is Park Elementary School modular. Same answer. No money's remaining.
On the next one also.
And on the next one, 11. Okay, so 11, 12, 13, 14, same.
Okay, got 'em all.
1115 Pine View. Got about, give or take, $300,040 left on Pine View. So this is what I said. Design complete, revert remaining funds. In the future, when a condition or capacity driver project, additional design or construction funds can be requested.
Oh, I forgot. That's been a long time ago. So yeah, it just stalled it was a bridge to nowhere.
Right, this was one of those that we were leaving in the event that the federal provided infrastructure money, and this was one of those projects we were going to bring forward as shovel ready.
Yep, I remember. Okay. So do we leave it open or?
I don't know. Somebody's got to tell me. Is that federal opportunity even a possibility?
I don't recall any of it.
So this is a School of the Deaf, right? Isn't it? That's one?
It's attached to it.
Okay. So yeah, it's been fascinating, this little adventure. So I know your attorney's been involved. We've talked to WDE. Our attorney's been involved trying to understand this. Last year, about every 2 years, this ugly monster raises its head, and you guys are going, hey, how do we take care of the building? Can we spend major maintenance on it?
Major maintenance.
Okay. And so anyway, my latest with our attorney is that it's an MOU, not a lease. Okay. So when you look at state statute, you look, is it a lease or an MOU? He says it's not a lease, it's an MOU. It actually literally says MOU on it. In his opinion, it's owned by the state. It's deeded to the state.
Mhm.
And it's not district owned. So our latest little adventure is it's a state owned building, those portions. A&I, it really belongs to the state responsibility to take care of it. And that square footage should be being generated for major maintenance on the state side for that portion. And then major maintenance spent prioritized by the state to repair whatever those needs are.
1s and 2s, all same stuff.
If district, and then I just wrote down some stuff he was saying, if district wants ownership for major maintenance, follow through with conditions of MOU or do a quit claim deed to clarify ownership. Because I think in his personal opinion that the MOU is, if I understand right, specifically has in it that it's to be used for school. And there is no school.
There is.
Well, there's no students in the school.
Their students are in there.
Our students are.
Oh, right, but for deaf children.
Correct.
The MOU specifically says
WDE.
yes, and so they're right. So is it being used for the deaf? No.
Because the state pulled out.
So what his opinion is, after talking to everybody and their dog, is basically that, I mean, if the district wants to own it, your MOU says you can take back ownership of that piece of property. Now, I know that there are political issues involved there, and this is his opinion, so he's passing on to us. So we can, and we're going to be talking, we meet with A&I every year, right? We do facility planning with them too. So if you want us to just basically get that on the inventory, start generating major maintenance, and they're responsible for the portion of upkeep. I know you have an MOU and you guys are working things out.
One particular part.
Yep.
Is what WDE.
It's like a resource center, right?
So if you guys are interested in that, then we'll move forward with A&I and see if we can be added and start generating major maintenance, and then they can work cooperatively with. No, that's what I'm asking. That's what I'm asking. If you guys want to do that way, then we can pursue that and see where we go. If you want to take back ownership through what our attorney believes is you're right. It's already legally in your hands because of the MOU is not being fulfilled with the deaf students not there. So, and I know the governor's office has been involved in this in the past, and we don't want to rock the boat, but we don't want. I mean, we're saying to you by state statute we're saying to you that we cannot allow you to spend major maintenance because you do not own that. Okay, so we'd love to say yes, but we can't. So our next question is, would you like us to basically approach A&I and have them start generating major maintenance, see if that'll work out, and then they can cooperate with you for expenditures in the future, replace the roof and their share and stuff like that.
And boilers, they're bad.
We'll talk.
Or we could build a new Pine View, because we got the plans
Well,
already.
There you go.
You still have the obstacle of the building there, right? You were building it around it.
Close it off, yeah.
Let's talk.
Okay.
We'll get back to you.
Okay. We meet with them in what, a month or so, A&I, or less
In
than
a
that?
month.
In about a month.
Well,
So if
They've
you,
extended out, so a month.
we don't want to do something you don't agree with, and it's your MOU. So you
Well,
just
if we don't do anything, it technically should be on the state's list and should already be generating state major maintenance, right? It doesn't take any effort to have it generate state major maintenance.
it's just a formality for us to make sure A&I has it
Has it
down
on their
and it's generate
inventory.
major maintenance. And we include this building, like every other building that's owned by the state,
Right.
that as prioritizing projects. So is that
So we're going to have a conversation about whether we want to pursue owning it.
okay?
If we choose to not own it, then obviously the state still has it and it's
Okay.
on their list for major maintenance.
So I think if it's okay, I mean, unless we hear differently from you,
That's what you're
we're basically following what we understand is a state-owned building, and they need to start generating major maintenance and help you guys out with take care of it. Okay. All right.
So this design was to rebuild that school or build a school.
Replace Pine View.
Yeah.
But it was leave the School of the Deaf, to essentially
Yeah, they're
leave the
just gonna
state portion,
Cut it off.
take the district portion off, build a new district portion that encompassed all of their needs.
There was a design that cleared all that up, and we were going to put a memorial type room in the new school. But there was such an outcry from the deaf community about that building going away that the architect just finally, and the district finally said, fine, we'll construct and you can have your building sit. So Troy's right. It's got some political. That's why I don't want to give you an answer today.
Yeah,
Okay.
that makes sense.
So I'm just going to say there's a state-owned part of the building. SFD will pursue major maintenance funding for that portion unless the district informs us otherwise.
So we would revert the remaining funds. I know did what was it, State Line 7? Did they go? Is some of their contracts still encumbered?
Yes, the CA, and that's why it's still open, is to leave those dollars in event
Shovel ready.
funding became available that it could be constructed with federal dollars. We'd already have
So
design funds
I would,
available.
the director's not here, but I'd prefer not to revert if we can, simply because the infrastructure bill at the federal level actually has
If it
got a little
goes through.
momentum behind it in the last few months.
Oh, okay, I
So
gotcha.
the director might have information differently,
Yeah.
but I know he was at some federal meetings where he was hearing the possibility. And you really do have to have a shovel-ready project that's
And,
not
and
like,
that one is the only truly shovel-ready project
Wow.
we've got in the
That would
entire
be
state.
really
I put the
nice.
list together that he was running around with, and it's one of them. Yeah, you're right. It's like one of the real ones.
Yeah.
The rest are like it's sort of ready, but not really.
So I'll just say design complete,
we'll revisit
review next year.
because then we'll know did the bill pass?
Okay.
Did you get any money? Okay,
All right.
so find you review next year.
And I don't want to ask this question, but I'm going to kind of ask this question. In your recent consideration of your facilities, was this facility in discussion in regard to some of the actions that you've taken, or is this facility not even considered in that list?
no, I think almost every school was, other than the brand new ones were on the list for consideration. Pineview wasn't caught up in that group because it's actually big enough to be what we call a 3-2,
Okay.
actually a 4-3 with the portables. So it was more about gaining efficiencies in the
Okay, yeah, like I said, I don't really want to ask the question. It's you guys' business.
Well,
but
I hope
just-
we're done closing, to be honest with you, so.
Okay.
But yeah, it was on the list for consideration.
Okay.
Next one is Red Creek.
1116.
Yeah. 1116,
That's
revert.
That's done, yeah, that was
That's
with the new modular.
How much is left?
About 16,000.
I'm surprised there's anything left there, Doug. I thought your costs exceeded what we had available.
I think there were some components that weren't eligible for the project.
Right.
That's where
The funds that are still remaining.
probably.
Okay.
1117 Rittner property, Morad Park demolition.
Got that in 17.
Okay, so that was already reverted, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Next one is Roosevelt.
Roosevelt. And you want
Okay.
that
It's
one
the same note as 1103.
review next year. Yep. Last one is Southridge. Give or take about 700,000 left in it. Is that one still in motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Really? Man, we did that long.
Well, yeah, but there's been a lot that's happened since then, and we got some dollars returned to the district or to the state on behalf of the district for some work to be done there, and you're still proceeding on that work, right?
It'll be done this summer.
Okay. So, yeah, that one's not done yet.
It's a bunch of, there were still punch list items and warranty issues that were never addressed.
Gotcha.
So,
But we're the holder of the funds that they need to do the work.
Okay. So we're good?
Yeah.
Moving on. Paul, security.
Okay, we've had some of these talks before, but our goal is to attempt to get every district to expend all of their security funds. And we're doing it on behalf of the districts that we're making this request because we really are trying to get the legislature to make available more funds. But the reason they keep telling us that they aren't ready to do that is because the funds that were made available in 2014 haven't been expended yet. And there's been a certain level of concern stated on the level, and I don't know whether you guys have been at commission meetings where they're basically asking us, what can you do to force the districts to expend their funds? And we're telling them, districts are autonomous. They can make their own decisions when and if or how they're going to do.
We're pretty good at that.
But regardless, we're still making the appeal to you on behalf of every district to try to capture as many of these dollars, get them encumbered, so that the next time we can go to the legislature, we can ask for funds to go beyond these 8 items that are listed up.
Is this the funding, the one-time special funding for security, not the 10% carve out of?
No, this isn't the 10%, because the 10%, we've got that identified here below, but this was the first 8 items that are highlighted in green. And if you remember in that original listing, there were 20 categories that were put together in the security standards for the state of Wyoming for K-12 schools. It came out in October of 2014. And the $9 million that we put out was basically, that's as far down the list as we could get with the $9 million that we had. Now, there were some issues with some school districts. They didn't have the capabilities of doing the work themselves. They needed design help. They needed soft cost help, and that's where the 10% security money really came in, was to give them the ability to do that. In particular, the districts, unlike yours, that you have a relatively high skill level in comparison to many districts, so you could do some of this stuff yourself, which was the original intent. The district you replace your own locks, you do a lot of these little changes, and so what happened, we basically got the remedy guide that came out in 2015, and then the dollars were thrown out here. But as you well know, Doug, all of these dollars are essentially hard costs. There's no soft costs associated with these dollars that are put out here. And the thought was either the district was going to eat it, the district was going to do it, and then they gave the 10% money that's available for you if there isn't sufficient funds to achieve those things. So we're just making that appeal to you. Please consider getting those dollars completely encumbered and gross so that we can make an appeal to go for the next 12 items.
I got a couple of questions for you, Paul.
Yeah.
So at the beginning, there was a pretty tight interpretation of how those categories had to be spent.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of that 71,000 I spent out of the 10% was to augment, because to build a secured vestibule, if I had $5,000, that's not enough.
Right.
And I understand that's loosened up and we can move between categories now. I sent you a request this morning.
Right, and I did see that request.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's a touch of the problem, is the assessment has been done. The legislature, from their perspective, sees that these are items that we've funded to be taken care of. Some districts are making the decision, we don't even want to do that stuff. Can we do something else? Well, as long as it's one of the 8, we've been allowing them to do that. But the problem gets to be is down the road, if there's some kind of an issue that occurs and one of those items would have helped in the situation, we want to make sure that everybody had the opportunity to do the improvements. But if they waived it and decided not to do it, so yes, we will let you do it. We don't encourage it. We would like you to bring it up to the standards that were developed in October of 2014 is really what we'd like you to do. All of your school buildings have uniform level of security, so every student, every staff member's got the same level of security. But yes, we will do it, but we want you to know it's not going to be back funded again. So if you shift dollars from one thing to another, it's gone.
Here's a harder question for you.
Okay.
The 71,000 I spent out of that 10% set aside for major maintenance.
Oh, I think I know where you're going.
Is
Go
there
ahead.
any way that I want to spend that I want to spend that in the capital construction funds where it's intended to begin with, but it's going to require shifting money around because building secured vestibules almost always costs more than the money I had available.
Secured vestibules, for whatever reason, have been the absolute bugaboo out of this whole thing. Most districts thought, wow, we get a new entry, it's going to be beautiful, and it's going to be 3-story, and it's going to be glass, and all kinds of, it's going to be really cool.
I can barely put new hardware on the doors that are there.
And that's pretty much what the assessment was doing. Well, if you add another door inside right here, you've got a secured vestibule. That's what they were thinking, and that's why the dollars are.
I can't even add another door.
Yeah. We realized that, and we realized that sometimes their scoping just didn't work.
I think they missed the cost for a secured vestibule.
Right. But I'll let you know, we've had some districts that have gotten $135,000. They've skipped every project and put $135,000 into a vestibule, and it had nothing to do with security. They wanted the front end of their building to look beautiful. Again, districts are autonomous. They can make their decisions on how to do that. Yes, we'll let you do that, but we just want you to know that issues associated with things you decide not to do, it's your autonomous decision. But yes, we'll work with you on that.
Okay, appreciate that.
So you do have the 715,000. You spent 71 out of it, but
And I have the rest of that all scheduled for interior security cameras.
you now have another 700 and some thousand.
That second one. So
Yeah,
Because-
this section of the bill.
they added another 10%.
Yeah,
They did.
So I stuck in those next 2 elements. It was like, what, 15, 17 million in security, and they said, no, we ain't funding that.
That'll be good because the
But
first set I could only afford 2 or 3 cameras per school.
So,
Well, I will let you know if they do fund the next ones, it is cameras. And then you guys, when they go do the assessment, they're going to go, you don't need any. So,
is that the next element was?
But no guarantees.
yeah, I think the next
So-
element, which is like $15 million, is cameras.
Yeah, this process,
Oh, for the
of
capital
the appropriations sort of got diluted because we had here's the elements, here's the check or appropriations. It was nice and tight, and then they said, well, here, just spend 10% of your major maintenance. We'll call it good. So that's where sort of the funding mechanisms we're on now for the second biennium.
So when you do other elements, those other 12 elements, when that money does come available, you're not going to have access to it because you will have already done the work with either your 10% money
Well,
or
kind of.
kind of.
But will the same principle, you are allowing them to move money around, can they then take those monies, redirect them to another element, and spend money on that? Just ask them.
Yeah,
Is it gonna be-
right now it has to stay within the 8 of the dollars you've got.
Right.
But in the future, it'll be the same thing. But you got to understand when they do the assessment, they go through and they say, how much does Natrona get for cameras? Oh, they're all cambered up.
Oh, it's because it's just not going to generate money.
Or
Yeah,
if
I
the
got you.
legislature gets back on the other funding path, funding by the element, they may only fund one element or two, and if they fund one, well, heck,
So I'm just telling you might be setting yourself up in the future to not be included in the funding.
You know how they're approaching elementary and middle school? So one thing I could do is I've cut way back on the high schools, so they're not really getting as many cameras as they need.
Okay.
If there's a pretty good chance that we're gonna get more capital construction fund, one strategy
Well,
would be to take care of the high schools now and then use that money that comes later for elementary schools.
yeah, I'm far from advising you how to expend your funds. I'm not going to do that. I'm just telling you what will happen. 2 years from now will be the first time that the next chance will be to get funding. So between now and 2 years, I guarantee there's nothing. So do you want to sit and do nothing for 2 years? I realize you're a district who doesn't do that. You're going to address that.
I don't know, Paul. I know the Joint Education Committee, their number one priority is safety and security. It could be SROs they go after and not anything to do with facilities. And I know so I'm speculating about what they might do in the second half of the biennium. That's big time speculation. But I think if they don't do anything now, in the next 2 years, they're going to have huge pressure to do something.
Right. Well, and we know there's a
following,
federal push right now coming from the White House that they want things to happen. So could things change? Absolutely.
So I think your point overall, whether it's 2 years or 1 year, that's debatable. But what's not debatable is what you're saying is the categories exist and the assessment will get done. And if you don't have needs in those assessed areas,
Yeah, you won't get anything because they'll only give it to you based on your needs. They won't just give you a lump sum to work with.
The special 9 million came with those conditions with the 10% major maintenance.
Does not have that condition.
So
we
we could choose to use that on non-categorized types.
Yes.
Yeah, the other thing you can use is get with Homeland Security. They've given away quite a bit of money. And we've been working and being in coordination with them too. So what we've tried to tell Homeland Security is, here's the stuff we have money available for. So don't both of us give money for the same thing, add piggyback on top to provide a bigger package.
Makes good sense.
And we can give you the contact information for Homeland Security.
Amber's got it in the
Facility
attachments
plan.
in your
Yep,
plan.
okay.
Your
It's their
contact
contact
for
information, and I would definitely contact them because, as Dell said, there's been hundreds of thousands of dollars given to districts.
There's a timing issue of when they can apply for those grants, so sooner than later.
Homeland applies for the grants.
Yes. Yeah.
And then they award it to you after they get the funding.
Each county is a little bit different as we've went through and talked to the different districts. Processes are a little different. Goshen County was, what they informed us, was a very simple process for them. They ended up with $25,000. All they really had to do was a walkthrough with their sheriff and sign some paperwork, and it was an easy, smooth move. One of the Sheridans, and I apologize, I don't know which one of them, they ended up with $50,000. The only one that I ever heard any negativity was out of Johnson, and I think he just didn't want to go through the process of the paperwork. So
I think the folks
You know,
with
that was
Homeland
the only
Security would be
negative
willing to come up and sit down with you in your office too.
I think there's an office right in Casper, isn't there?
Yeah, I think the gentleman that's running it though is out of here, has been handling that with Homeland Security. But good guy. He used to be a major in the highway patrol, so I know him pretty well.
I think we've actually worked with them on the Safe to Tell. They're the group that launched the Safe to Tell. and we were their pilot district.
All right, we good?
Yeah.
On security?
Yeah, because the last item was what Bill just covered there, was talk to Homeland Security.
So capacity wise, we always take each of your buildings and look at them with regard. These are the rural schools, and then your Woods Learning Center, Poison Spider, Midwest, all those. So those are just percentages of capacity. Down here are your elementary schools, and we always look district wide, and so some are near or over 100%, some are under by quite a ways, but we recognize that you set your own. I mean, I guess you guys aren't boundaried, right? It's just free choice of where they go and stuff. But overall, we look at your district wide 85%. So obviously, we know you have enough space, and later on, I think we're going to have a
What's the
discussion.
date?
What's the what?
The date. What was the date that?
This was driven off of?
Yeah.
This is driven off of October 2nd enrollment.
17.
Yes.
October
Yes,
17.
yes, yep.
So it'll be dramatically different a year from now
Yep.
because the schools that we closed.
So, yep, this is based off of your October numbers in 2017.
So could you send that to the Casper Star Tribune?
We'll let you send it right away.
The town of Mills.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it's in your facility plan.
All the groups.
Do what you want with it. Okay, junior high schools, we see that overall you guys are middle schools. You call them middle schools? Middle schools. 83%, and then your high schools after everything. This kind of surprised me a little bit. You're at 91%. So, got that. And then the Pathways Innovation Center, the PIC building. PICS, is it PICS? Anyway, that isn't counted because your enrollment is actually, it is for capacity, but your enrollments are reported at each of the main.
Right. So Kelly Walsh and NC and Roosevelt should always be over capacity because the square footage is out there.
So I think we're good there.
Yep.
Okay. And then your enrollment projections. This is nothing new to you. You know exactly what's going on here. We don't include the rural schools and stuff in this. We've worked with you guys not to include those. So 10 years of trailing data. Your average kindergarten class coming in is about 1,048 students. And so you guys, there hasn't been a huge difference there, as much as I was anticipating, at least on the, of course, I'm not the one that's minus 15,000 per student either, so I might be understating that. As your students move over, if you took approximately your K through 6, your average class size is about 1,015. As they get into the upper grade levels, you drop about 100 students per class. And then over here is your survival rates. That may be a little bit small, but your survival rates, which actually, junior year is typical, but you pick students back up here. So survival rates look pretty strong overall, except for your junior year. And those rates, again, when you follow a class, it is kind of a stair step, right? Your kindergarten advances to first grade, second grade, third grade. And that's how you're going to read that.
How is that? What are you guys seeing overall right now at the top with the oil industry starting to pick back up? Are you stabilized? I know you lost a bunch kind of just fairly quickly. What do you see?
Well, I think actually when oil dropped off, we didn't see the big exodus because I think construction in the community propped it up, and then it showed up after that. Now it's starting to flat, we think, but we've only got about 6 months of telling us that it's flat. A lot of optimism in the community that's going to start back up. Maybe this summer we'll see.
Okay. Any age class of students that it hit harder than the other?
Our kindergarten classes dropped off. If you look back, like 2012, we were nearly 1,200. We're struggling to maintain one of 1,000 now. So that's your young families with babies.
Right.
The other thing is this last boom was different than the ones before. I think we had a huge number of stint workers roll in, do their 2 weeks, left their family if they had one, back where they were, and they do their 2 weeks on, go home for a week, rent apartments, bring a pickup truck, because the the real estate was hit, but rental real estate was hit far worse than residential real estate. So kind of a different dynamic.
Well, I could tell that when I was staying there, I was staying in the same hotel every other week. And I was sitting in the morning eating breakfast with oil workers in 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014. And then all of a sudden, I was sitting there eating all by myself in the morning for breakfast. And before I had like 40 of my best pals there with me. So you could see it right there. Wow. Yeah.
Okay, so down to statewide. We always do this on a statewide basis. The good news is we still have capacity concerns across state. All the people didn't move out. So, but anyway, up in Afton, we have a couple elementaries that probably need an addition sooner or later. Rock Springs is still consistently growing, slowly but consistently. So we're doing a planning, refreshing a most cost-effective remedy study, updating that, and we'll have probably recommendations in the future on that. Laramie is Laramie 1 here in Cheyenne. They're in a triad, and you probably know their elementaries feed a specific junior high that feeds a specific high school. I think their vision is a quadrat at some point where you have another attendance area, and those students kind of stay with their cohorts through. And then over in Laramie, it's kind of closer with their junior high, about 98%. But there's not a lot of economic activity happening in Laramie, so we have no idea where that's going to end up. But anyway, it's just a high, medium, and low priorities. And then we have some. Jackson's, their elementaries were just fuller than full, and now we're building a new elementary there. So.
And that's a big one.
Yeah. 500 students, something like that?
524, something like that. Yeah.
So that's a blessing for them. Okay, so let's get on to your comments here. It looks like planning to mothball X number of schools and possibly Powder River. This will affect capacity in the remaining open schools. So that'll be interesting. We'll see those capacities individual. Unless you do otherwise, Dell, we'll keep the mothballed in the capacity, overall capacity. We'll show a true capacity of the district, even though they're mothballed, because those are non-construction alternatives. If their capacity goes back up again, those will be, unless you decide to do something else with them other than mothball them. So any discussion there that you'd like to have?
I don't know how many of them are you mothballing? 1, 5, 6.
Willow Creek's a small rural building. Powder River's a small.
Okay.
It's just Westwood, University Park, Mountain View, and Willard, 4 elementary schools.
And Westwood, though, you had Midwest in there last year.
Correct.
But other than that, Westwood has not had students in it since the Southridge students were swinging through there.
Correct.
Are these running to the commission this month?
The mothballs are,
okay.
Yes.
Oh, this is the ones I saw.
Yeah, but
Thursday.
The closure ones we did.
Okay.
And so we'll need another letter for the closure.
It's coming.
Okay.
I got Shelley's letter yesterday.
Okay.
So we're good there?
Yeah.
Okay. Major maintenance calculations and allowable square footage. One of the things, we had a study done last year on major maintenance, and one of the things that came out of that was just a recognition of allowable square footage, which again is based on your ADM and actual. And so in your school district, you have approximately 600,000 square feet of actual square footage that is not being funded through the major maintenance formula. So, and you guys have listed what you're doing to reduce the square footage with regard to student, staff, occupancy, and stuff like that. So we've acknowledged that. The commission specifically made some recommendations to the select committee to kind of bridge the gap between allowable and actual. And yet at the same time not to take advantage, or not to encourage districts to continue to hold on to excess square footage that they didn't necessarily need, but just wanted to, and probably the state shouldn't be paying for that. So Brandon's going to talk in just a few minutes. One thing that's going to affect you tremendously, and you probably know already in state statute is the 7-year phase-in is now gone. So that's going to be huge for you guys. And there's other things we pursued, but it didn't make it out of select committee to advance to any other committee to be considered. Charter school, you don't have one. You do have an alternative school, Roosevelt, at 226 students. One of the things, and I keep asking the superintendents as we go along through the facility plan process, now that we're on number 47 out of 50, 48 actually, is we're hearing about 25% of superintendents turnover approximately a year, give or take. And so throughout the state, and for us, it's kind of interesting. Someone pointed out this morning. So when we present things like this, we know you know how to take care of your buildings, routine maintenance, preventive maintenance. Major maintenance comes in as the building ages to take care of the deferred maintenance as it increases. And at some point along the continuum, there's an infusion of capital funds that need to be done with renovations, replacements. Obviously, in the past, we were heavy on the hundreds of millions, billions, and so the state chose to I think, resolve things at a lesser facility condition index number. That has been discussed on where the appropriate place is now that generosity is limited. So with that, but the other reason we put this in here is because we have district changeover all the time. But not only that, but we have new directors coming here, we have new staff, and so there's this constant change of people within districts and our own staff. And so we just try to help districts along the way understand that how you take care of your building determines how many miles you get out of it and how it serves your staff and students. Out of 450 plus educational buildings, this is just page 1 of that FCI list, Facility Condition Index list. The higher number up here basically just means the more deferred maintenance. Anything of a 0.4 nature above this is one way or has one way or another been addressed either through planning studies or decided not to remedy because it was like in Ten Sleep, I think a building was purchased that was intended to be demolished because they needed more land. But these have all been discussed at the legislative level. Some have been, most I would say, have been addressed through some kind of appropriations this year. For your school district specifically, when we go down through and look at yours, and next year we'll kind of order this from greatest to least need here, but there's no horrible numbers here. You're overall, I'm searching for a 0.3. Is anybody see even a 0.3 up here? So your buildings are in reality in very good shape. 0.2 or more. Now, I know that you have variances of what good condition is from a brand new building and stuff, but from a condition point of view, you guys do not have buildings that have a tremendous amount of deferred maintenance tied to them. And we recognize as you mothball these buildings, it's not necessarily on condition. It's that you're internally you're making decisions to run your budget from the block grant side and to deliver the best education to your students.
So I guess maybe it's premature. Some of them are being mothballed. Some of them are going to actually be disposed of. Are you going to update it after the commission then acts on it? Is that the way you do it? Because
next year you would see this updated. You'd see this updated next year.
Okay. Because the commission hasn't acted on it.
Yeah, and when you say updated, let's clarify. We're still going to have this list out there, even if it's mothballed. We're going to still.
Right, but will it say mothball?
Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying in the descriptor. Yes. Yeah. Yep.
I wonder if you can add some of that in that because you've got to be closed. I wonder about maybe to be mothballed or whatever.
And I'm fine. The grant one, for example, says closed.
Yep.
It's currently closed, but it's going to be sold.
Got
but
it.
The commission hasn't heard that yet.
So not only closed, but disposed.
Right. So a year from now, that'll be reflected. It's got a 0.2.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
I didn't mean to do that.
I think you'll find our schools with poor conditions are going to be disposed of or mothballed.
Yeah, and that brings up kind of an interesting discussion, Dell, and you could certainly, you won't be here at that point, but we will be, and we'll be having. Okay, so you're saying you've got a .2 something building, and you're saying we want to demolish that, and so they're going to make a request, and then the next director is going to have to decide: do we demolish .2 buildings, and do we make those recommendations? And then where I'm just pointing out the challenges we will have as an agency, because we have buildings out there that may be a lot higher that may have demolition, so we would do those. We have capacity needs, we have condition needs, we have component needs, we have track, all these things. And so if you came in with I'm just being honest with you, if you came in with a .2 something score building and you're asking to demolish it, we will then be forced to then, how are we going to prioritize that statewide to a legislature and validate where that gets within that request, the prioritization of that list.
Frankly, I think it depends on what's in the budget request, because if you didn't have a lot of capital construction, the legislature would probably be more open to funding demo projects. But this year they actually cut that out on the Senate side, and it can kind of come back in. But I think it's just going to be up to the commission to look at what they're doing priority.
You're not going to get that from us in the near future. We're just going to sell the buildings because the land's not worth holding on to. Mm-hmm. They're all small constrained sites. So.
Sell the buildings, and if you can find someone to take them.
We've been very successful.
That's great. Yeah, and that's
cheaper too.
Now there has been, I think there was a state statute change with regard to demolition or disposal of buildings.
Right.
Is there not?
Yeah, the commission.
In the past, go ahead.
Yeah.
It says the commission shall approve it unless they find it not to be in the best interest of the taxpayers or something like that.
So just to let you know, I think that the state statute now has changed, or will, through the bill, and will be more stringent on that. So the commission will directly have to be involved.
One of the things that came out of the committee meeting that we'll be talking to Select about, and so I don't know whether it'll be in rule or how it would work, but there was concern in the legislature when it says the commission, because right now it basically doesn't say the commission shall, but so that was a verbiage change. But then on the back end of that, if the commission doesn't agree, then they said, well, what's the process for the district to appeal that decision? And there really isn't anything in there. So what they said is, well, we'd like you to set up a rule, do something in your rules and regs to allow an appeal process. So my first blush at doing that is just follow kind of the same appeal process through the administrative act, where you go to the board or something and say, hey, we don't agree, and do it that way. But that's something they'll probably talk with the select committee about this summer to see what that may look like. Because I don't know if they've mentioned, but we're redoing almost all of our rules and regs, and those will be moving forward this summer. And so part of the state statute says that we have to confer with the select committee on any rules and regs changes. A lot of that's been done over the last 4 or 5 years on those particular rules, but just no guess. It's just a wild guess on the number. I don't have any, we haven't sat down and averaged it out, but I'm guessing there's probably 35% has not been through the select committee. So we've got to run all that through select committee on that rules process as we're going. So that's my intent, is to throw that work on that rule is during that time frame based on the feedback I got from the legislature on that.
So the change for disposition now of buildings and stuff, the department shall report via the commission. They removed, just so you know, they removed the district shall have final authority. So up to this point, you've had final authority to dispose those as you wish. Now it's going to be subject to commission review, shall approve the proposal related to the sale submitted pursuant unless the commission determines that the proposal does not protect the financial interests of the state. And then there'll be other, and we've never had the commission do that in the past, but we just let you know that rules have changed now.
Well, that's why we're mothballing
Mothball.
older buildings and selling the cruddy ones. I think we're gonna save everybody money in the long run.
Okay.
Especially if people are taking them, the demo and
Yeah.
capital requests and all that.
So, Charlie, still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
So just to confirm then, when these change, you always put in parentheses the actual status, correct?
Correct.
Okay, good. So that will reflect that. Thank you.
Completion of the commission.
These are your ancillary buildings. We've had several, you guys know this, we've had several questions of, well, my bus barn's really important. So how can I get, and we're like, education buildings have come first with the legislature. So, and a down economy, we would assume it's going to be the same in the future for a while.
Troy, over the past 3 or 4 years, I have noticed that bus barns have been approved to be constructed or reconstructed. At what point in time do you foresee that capital construction winds down like it is in our district, and the support facilities, i.e. the bus barns and that kind of stuff, start rising back up again?
I don't know, Del. I mean, I would assume that. Well, I think what I understand the legislature is they're trying to come up with a steady funding source, right? To instead of this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. I think they're trying to stabilize it so that districts and facilities can have count on a certain amount of money per biennium to spend on. So, and maybe within that, once that's assured, and it's a comfortable level, then maybe the discussion on ancillary buildings may be able to come back in and see how that fits in within that stabilized expenditure over time. But
I was asked by select committee my thoughts on how we could maybe stabilize the program. What would that look like? And Speaker Harshman, what I told him in committee meeting was that rather than the years where we got 400 a biennium or 600 a biennium, and then all of a sudden we're down like we were last year to zero, is the state ought to figure out a long-term plan and maybe have 250 million every year or every biennium of capital construction. Good years, bad years. And the years when you can sock away some money where you'd have a $600 million program and you create your own inflation and pay more for a building. And then you bring in all the out-of-state workers, because there was a lot of concern with how do we keep in-state workers here and keep the workforce going.
Yep.
Is there a method to do that? And I said, well, you could sock away money here. Bad years, when you got a hole, you take that money, fill it out, but pick whatever the state thinks we can fund as a capital construction program in the future. And I also suggested that, with my highway background, what we've done there is, if you're familiar with what they call the STIP, the State Transportation Improvement Program, it's a 6-year look. And I think that would help the districts tremendously figure out when your project's coming, where it's in the loop, and it's a dynamic document. It depends, they move projects in and out quarterly, the Transportation Commission does, based on funding. Let's say for example, you have a $50 million school building and it comes in at 45. When it's actually bid, well, you take that 5 and maybe add some other projects in, or vice versa. Maybe a lower project that's scheduled, if that comes in at 55 and it's one you want to fund, and you don't think you're going to get a better bid, you move that project back. So it kind of moves with that, but it would help, I think, with the districts. And I don't think you need a 6-year program based on how quickly we can, on the highways, some of those projects take 10 years to get through the environmental process. But on the schools, you can get them designed quicker. So maybe it's a 4-year outlook, and once you know what you have for funding, you can stabilize that, just move those projects through. And I really think that's ultimately would give the state a lot more stability with funding sources, particularly where maybe coal's not going to come back to the level it ever was, where you get those big payouts. You're looking, I think that's where you saw the speaker trying to take some of that money out of some of the funds that have been going into the rainy day accounts, and those, when by constitution only a third of it was supposed to go in. and they're putting right now, say 80% in. Well, he's saying, well, let's take that and obligate that long-term funding and try to set up a program. And I think it's got its infancy right now, but again, that's probably something that needs to be looked at, and supported, I think, moving forward. Because again, if you knew, Steve, that, you had 2 or 3 buildings, you knew which years out, would certainly help even with your student population planning trends and stuff, instead of, well, I don't know until March 17th whether I got my project this year or not, and on the back side of how that's moving through. And I think a good example of that's Afton. We knew Afton was having those problems. Shelby and I went up last year to look at their school, and now they've got, they're gaining 100 and some kids a year at the elementary level, kindergarten up there with their growth. And so it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And so if you could plan that and then put that in the pipeline to start, particularly if you need a new site, at YDOT, that first year, that program is your construction. Then back behind that, 2 or 3 years of that is your design. And back behind that is your planning, where you're actually going out, where am I going to build a school? Do I need land? What do I need here? How many students are coming? And you put that planning document together. And that's why I say, I think on the schools, if you had a year of that planning, and then, and beyond that, they actually had another program that's a 20-year look. So you could take these long-term population trends and know that probably, this project is going to be coming up into that 4-year plan or a 5-year plan. Then you start the year 4 of that is doing your planning process, get it designed, you're asking for your money. So you got it there out in that fiscal year, and then you're just moving that down through the process. And if you get a catastrophic situation like happened with the state when everything falls out, well, at least you're in a holding pattern. You're probably not changing much. And when the funding comes, then those projects keep on going instead of this start-stop and nobody knows what's going on. But if they can figure out a way, they do it in the rainy day account. They do it in the permanent mineral trust fund. They put money in there. They know how much money. If you could set up a program like that for capital construction for schools, we wouldn't, there'd be lots of things happening right now. And you could plan in so many dollars for ancillary or things like that again, instead of right now, we're just trying to hit the high spots.
Like blade and a washboard.
Yeah. So.
Well, and I will point out to you too, Dennis, that in particular the bus barns, most of those have been opportunities, as was identified earlier. They've either had a fire in them or they've been condemned by the code officials or something. Just a new bus barn for the sake of a new bus barn, there's been 0.
Yeah.
It just happens to be that there have been some facility conditions that have been in transportation facilities, but actually new facilities, there have been none.
The last is what Harmon, Michaels did 2 of them. Those are just satellites.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Little guys.
And then they're just they're shops. They can go in and change the oil in the wintertime, so they don't have to do it laying out in the snow.
Okay, moving on, major maintenance. You guys always submit the 680 form each year and to reconcile your major maintenance accounts with expenditures. We appreciate that. This is just a snapshot of last year's priorities. You don't have to defend that or anything like that. It's just illustrative. This is a breakdown of those expenditures from numerical point of view, and then a system by system per building. So that just kind of shows a history of what you guys believed was your priorities and move forward with. I was shocked when I saw that this is all the 2s you have now left in this district.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, do you remember back in, anyway, for those of us who learned how to do condition assessments in Natrona 1 back in the day, and looking at this, this is just a phenomenal.
You guys going to go over the funding for major maintenance?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that's a combination of hustle on Doug and Dennis's part. It's also a function of replacing an old building with a brand new building. So there a bunch of 1s and 2s just went away when we reconstructed the building or built a new one replacement. So
Yeah,
Well, one question for you. I know one of the questions, on some of the projects I submitted for the 17, or for 18-19, I think was referencing our low condition scores for the enhanced projects.
Yes.
So are we good now? So I had,
Well, I think as long as we have a discussion, and that's why I wanted to have this discussion first, because Doug, and I assume that you all know this, but he put in a lot of preparatory work orders for this next year
Right.
in there, and then he also put in a couple of them which were enhancements.
Right.
And I don't mean little. I mean they exceed what you're doing on your buildings by a pretty fair piece, on the order of millions of dollars.
the synthetic field.
And I'm just kind of questioning, are we all good with this? You know, we're basically putting millions into enhancements, and I don't see as much being put into your buildings. I just want to make sure that we're clear. Are these the right priorities?
Part of that is we saved up 10% enhancement money knowing that we had to replace synthetic fields. They're not an inexpensive replacement, and several of them are coming due at the same time. So yes, it does look big in proportion to a full year's regular major maintenance, but simply by the 90-10 split, it shouldn't look big across the 5 or 10 year look.
Yeah, and I think if you go back and you look at our balance, our 10% fund balance, I mean, it's big because we really haven't spent much of that 10%.
Intentionally.
Yeah.
How long does this bill last?
10
years.
10 years.
Yeah. And I did reference, you know, when I put those in depending, you know, we do have a statutory requirement. If you have 1s and 2s, we're technically not supposed to be doing enhancement work. And so, and I realize you guys have a real small list, but in a very technical sense. And I understand you're planning and you want to put them into the plan, and that's why you're presenting them forward. But one of my obligations should be technically to say, no, you don't have your 1s and 2s all completely taken care of. I will approve them.
Do you have the ability, if we give you a reason why a 1 or a 2 shouldn't be addressed right now, that it's in the best interest of the state to not? So your roof comes up and we tell you the roof is not as bad as the condition is.
What I would love is if it next year when you come to your facility plan, if you got that so that they can include that in there, that would be fantastic, because everything in statute always refers back to this plan that we're looking at right now.
Yeah, yes, we do. I guess is the short answer. Actually, when we were trying to get the increase in major maintenance, you know, I talked to the select committee about that very thing and said, for example, I went up and toured Tensleep, and they have a 1, or not Tensleep, Matitsi, and they have a 1 in their garage where they fix their, where they do the oil changes and stuff. And the 1 is the concrete floor. And it was an old building. It wasn't a garage to start with. It was old brick buildings, lasted forever. They just turned it into a garage. Well, the concrete floor is all cracked up and everything, but they change oil in it. And I said, yeah, I agree with you. That could stay a 1 for the next 100 years. And then there was another one that was it was a code thing up in, I think it was in Newcastle, but it was going to cost them a tremendous amount of money to get the right grade for the ADA into their elevator. And quite frankly, looking at it, I couldn't tell there was a grade. I don't know if it was a lip or whatever, but it was big bucks, and it was like a 2. And I said, to me, you got better things to spend money on than that, because you can't even tell that there's an issue. And so those, I'd be more than happy to, if it becomes an issue, to say, yeah, let's sit down and, as Paul said, and talk about it. So,
well, and again, I think give the list so that it can be recorded in here, and so there's a record of why you guys are doing those.
Do we need more than the notes that are in there now?
Well, I was going to point out, they've addressed every one of their 1s and 2s. In one way, shape, or form.
A lot
So,
better than other people.
Nothing has not been addressed in one way, shape, or form, either in the near future or whatever. So I think they're good.
Yeah, so I'll go pull all those up from pending and put those in the accepted.
Thank you.
And but I knew we had this coming up here really
right.
close, so I figured I'd
Good
talk with you about it.
Yeah. Great.
Okay, with regard to, and in addition to that, you can see the deferred maintenance here, just in these.
Yeah.
Next year we'll be pushing out. Don't think we're picking on you. We'll be pushing out your threes because there's nothing else to report, right? And you have a lot of those.
Yeah, I can't fix all my threes.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I-
So it looks like you have a lot of money until we have
I
threes.
apologize on interrupting. We've also got that Natrona County track that's been in pending. I'll pull that one up too.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So your major maintenance balance, this is just June 30th, 2017. Kind of looked through whatever. It looked like you'd have approximately 14 million. I don't know how many, and Charlie would know. Maybe you guys know how many buildings were being phased in right now, or some portion thereof.
Phased in.
At the 7-year phase in, once it's brand new. I don't know how many of those you have.
Lincoln, Gurney, Natrona County High School, the SBAC, Kelly Walsh,
It's tons
Dick
of square
Roosevelt.
footage.
Okay. Go ahead, Charlie.
So we're 8-9
And
buildings.
and big buildings. You just
Yeah, I
visit
guess
all the
you
high
guys
schools.
probably, that's
all
gonna
that square
affect you
footage.
more than any other district.
Oh my.
Could be like 40% of the square footage.
So that payment of Charlie, almost 6.5 million then? That didn't anticipate the phase in or not?
No, at this point, this is an awful last year's payment.
Okay. So
Say,
We don't have the data.
I've seen from the
Yeah,
projection was around 8 million.
figure out all the ramifications of the change. So that's just a tentative number at this point in time.
Okay. Steve says 8 million. 8 million it is.
I like that number.
But that's also, didn't the percentage increase too?
The RSV.
No.
Well,
Got shot.
Yeah, they shot that down.
Yeah.
And cut it out. They actually, the select committee passed it, but it was gonna be effective immediately. It was a couple bindings out, then they took that out, so.
So the only thing that increased funding was the elimination of the phase?
Well, and then the RS means value went up, so we went from 118.5 to about 144.
Okay, so that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah,
mhm.
Okay.
yeah. So just the normal inflation rate increased it also.
Okay, we ask you each year to clean up the database. If you have reported all your expenditures on a work order, then we close them. And then these are just work in progress, and then new ones that you put in. So, and for a district like you guys, this is a substantial. We don't have to look at them, just to show that you guys have a lot of cleanup to do, and and things that you're going to move forward with sometime in the future. So. Component projects. So these top 16 right here were approved by the governor just this week or last week. 10.5 million. Last year, they took 21 million out of the previous appropriation, and the governor approved up to 21 million for component projects. And these are the 16 that were recommended and forwarded to the select committee by the commission and worked through the process and now are actually in there and for immediate funding. You did not have any there. The 17 through 37, you guys had 3 bottom ones here that were requested but not forwarded to as recommendations in the last recommendation from the commission. So those were not funded, and so they'll have to be, if you want them, you'll have to be resubmitted. This elevator one, I think we need to do a little bit of talking on there. You're talking about resubmitting that. So here, I think we clarified with the commission several months ago to make sure that we understand what does and does not qualify for component projects. The elevator is non-existing, right?
Right.
So it does not qualify. It's a non-existing system. So that would not qualify because major maintenance wouldn't qualify to do a new one. So I just started brainstorming here and thinking a little bit with regard to that, and I think I may have written some Manor Heights down here. Insulation, this is not really a replacement. District needs an elevator to meet ADA requirements. Only multi-floor school. Okay, so what I did was I just took here's your Manor Heights. And I kind of did this maybe more for your sake, Brandon, as you consider this. This is from, what street is that on front side? 15th. And as you look up, there's a 2-story portion here, and then I think you go, I don't know how far you go with the first floor this way.
Right
to here?
Right to there.
And the elevator, I think we were wanting right in here, correct? Okay. And then this is just a single floor on the upper level. And then if you look at this illustrates it a lot better, right? Here's the east end, right? Or west end? East end of the building, and you can see where that first floor here is, and then the second floor, however you want to do it. And then they have, if I recall right, then you have your high needs special ed suite. Is that on the bottom floor?
It's on the top floor, those
right here.
Right there.
Okay, got it. So talk just a little bit, just to make sure we understand the context. You need to transfer those students downstairs at times.
To integrate with their general.
Okay, right. They need to be in the least restrictive environment, right? And so how do they get from here to here? So tell us how you get them from first floor, and their bed, some of them are in bed.
Until last December, they had to take them out of the building.
Okay, and around.
Yeah. Last December, I put in a stair lift.
Okay.
Which they're using now.
Okay, got it. All right. So that kind of gives the background, and here's the other end, the west end of it, and you can see the floor goes like this, and then it drops down here. So that's pretty well it. So just to talk about that one for a second, Dell. Now I know that so component won't qualify, major maintenance doesn't qualify. They have students that have high needs that they really should have an appropriate. Now you're saying now you have something on the stairs down. So,
what are they doing?
Component.
What I'm thinking is that to me that's more of a capital investment. And we've had issues dealing with high need students when they come into the building. Capital. Sometimes in this case, I think I'd rather try to invest in capital commission and maybe come to the commission and talk to them about it. Again, I think it's going to depend on one of the things that for the supplemental, we get a letter from the basically says your requests for the supplemental budget have to be emergency in nature, something you can address through your existing funding, through reprioritization or whatever. So I think that's where the commission would come into that and take a look at, and maybe that's a submittal we do in a supplemental request or something.
And a supplemental deal.
And a CapCon.
And CapCon will go out this summer.
Yes, we hope by June to have that done even though the legislature just finished, we're actually starting the budget process again. So
do all reversions revert away from the department? Do you retain any authority over reversions?
No, we used to. They took that away from us 2 years ago. So it all goes back, but that's how they're funding part of the capital construction. So, other than those 2 schools that you saw up there with Rock Springs and Afton, that right now is on our radar for capital construction. And then we'd probably want to try and do some component projects again or something. And I'm not seeing anything with the land money. I'm not seeing anything with demos at this point. I'm not seeing anything with the other things that filled up the budget. So depending on where we're at, it may not be sticker shock to them if we come in with a few projects like that. So
another general question. Last year I tried to put in AC in Manor Heights. They have swamp coolers now, and at the time that really wasn't major maintenance either. But would that qualify with the change in language as major?
No, they actually took that out. There was language in that maintenance bill that
there is actually language that says improvements.
I thought they took that out about minor alterations.
No, minor alterations is gone, but they put in a new word.
The word upgrade.
Upgrade now.
Okay.
And we've never had that word before.
Yeah. So the question: do you think swamp coolers to AC is an upgrade for Swamp
So
air,
let's-
just a refrigerator there is an upgrade. to that.
Replacement or upgrade of components or equipment of school districts. I don't know what that means, yeah.
I do.
Go back down.
You can put in AC.
Okay,
Leave it there.
okay.
That's site improvements is upgrade.
So that's, yep, upgrade here, but then you get
System
down
improvement.
here and they say system improvements, and guess what they use?
Well, they got it
The
there.
word you upgrade. Now, but this doesn't, this says structural systems
Well,
indoor,
yeah,
it doesn't have right yet. Now go down Windows, information, similar components or equipment.
Electrical,
So
plumbing,
similar,
heating,
if they've already
Oh, right
got
there,
a
heating.
stairwell lift, would that not be an
I
upgrade to have
testified
an
on
elevator?
this, so,
Did you?
yeah, absolutely, and used AC as a specific example. And I believe it was the Senate who initially took, the House had upgrade in, I think the Senate took it out, then somehow through concurrence or
Yeah.
committee, it got
Came back in.
And
Okay.
I used AC as a very specific example because we have this conversation nearly every year. If you don't have AC, you can't get AC. Right. Right.
Right.
Well, I think this is.
Okay.
So when does this become effective? So
July
I'll
1st.
I'll submit a request for Manor Heights
On July 1st.
on July 1st.
For
Design.
for which,
Design.
for
I need
which,
design. Yeah, to replace the swamp coolers with
Oh, I see.
refrigerated air.
with major maintenance.
Go back up, Troy.
You bet. But I was just a little farther.
Okay, no. I just
So
wanted-
yeah, and
I
that's,
just wanted to make sure that I and B and all that fell under that
Mhm.
section. Good.
So it sounds to me, I mean, and obviously, so I think the important thing, and you know, sometimes state statute is a little bit ambiguous to interpret or apply, and this organization has certainly tried to be consistent with application of that, but this is something obviously that will be
Right,
discussed.
this is
within-
brand new, and we haven't even talked procedurally what we're doing about this yet. So we're looking at this with you, going,
Yeah.
okay, what's
We're
next?
Friday, we're actually meeting as a staff and going down through the bills and what all we gotta do with everything, the CM side of the house and the other, cause some of it, we've got stuff to do right away, some of it we gotta report to committees, what's the bills mean, so I've told the staff, everybody go through it, and then we're gonna work it Friday, so.
But this is definitely one that I think all school districts will want clarification from us in
Yeah.
some way, shape, or form, saying, okay, so department, where do you stand?
Mhm.
What does this really mean? How are you interpreting it? So, okay. Well, that was a good discussion, and I only noticed that like this morning, believe it or not, so I was a little slow on the uptake.
Well, you're ahead of me, cause I had no idea. I was focused on the minor alterations thing.
So let's get back to this Manor Heights elevator. I think we all agree that if it's anything, well, I don't know, is upgrading a chair lift to an elevator? Is that an upgrade to transport students with high needs?
Guess you're going to talk about it, right?
Yeah. But I want to be careful what I put here, Del. Right? I don't want.
Well,
to
I think right at this point in time, you guys need to figure out, do you want to try and ask for it as a component? Or do you want to take it out of major maintenance? If you don't get it as a component, then you take it out of major maintenance, but.
It doesn't qualify for.
Well,
Well, yeah, it does.
capital, not-
Because he now
Actually-
has a conveyance system, which
Could-
happens to be a stair lift, and he's saying, I want to take the stair lift and replace it with an elevator, so it's an upgrade of the system.
It is. It is.
Well, what I'm saying though is, do they want to use major maintenance funds,
I mean, if we-
or do they want to try and get capital funds and then come back and hit maintenance if they don't get
Capital
it?
would be
It's all a
July
timing thing.
19.
Yeah, it's quite a ways out.
July
Capital would be
It's a year
July of 19 versus the other
At the
path would
earliest.
be done
Yeah.
in August of
Well,
18.
Well, we've only been waiting on this for 3 or 4 years.
What's
That's
Well,
another year.
So what?
What's another year?
and then you're and so we did want to read this here. And this is in the bill itself, HEA 062, and for emergencies or unanticipated needs. But after reading the definition of major maintenance on the upgrades, why would you submit a capital project for this elevator?
Because you save $1 million in major maintenance money for something else.
It's not going to cost you $1 million, but what is
Well,
it?
Oh,
whatever
yeah.
it is.
Oh yeah.
600,000.
It's already designed.
And last year you asked for 900,000.
Well, it's 600 plus whatever
your
Soft
spreadsheet
costs.
adds on
Right.
to it.
Yeah.
So it's 900. We're always accurate.
You go see
I'll leave it
Leone,
up to
probably
them.
get it
They
cheaper.
wanna do it
Okay,
that
so
way, but-
yeah, it's your choice. Do you?
Well,
I would too, have a instead of using measurements.
But then you guys are getting a windfall of millions of dollars you hadn't expected to get too, with your 7-year phase-in taken out. So you guys have got a lot more capital available than you were going to get.
We'll talk
Okay, so
if we stick it in the budget, I need to know by May 15th.
Okay.
That's the number to finalize.
For your supplemental.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
So,
I
yeah, we're gonna
finalized
try and
last.
take it to commission and then get a rough draft, and then from there, by the end of June meeting,
So is it
to meet the
both in the
governor's
definition?
I
request,
don't
we've
think
got
so.
to, commission has to have their budget kind of done.
No, let's take care of it.
well, are you upgrading the system? And is the system existing?
Yeah,
No, he says, is it an emergency?
Yeah, is it
Oh,
an emergency
well-
or an unanticipated need?
Hey.
That's where I'm questioning. Can we
Now,
even bring it forward?
I feel a little bit uncomfortable about that, but we got a director right here, man. If he says it can be, it can be, right? If the district wants to do it, we can do it. And then you stand in front in a public meeting and you make but here's the deal. You know, I was thinking the other day, Sublet 9. The commission granted them emergency funds to address an ADA issue for 2 students coming into a building.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
In Big Piney.
And Weston 7 had a.
And that's what I'm
disabled-
saying,
Yeah.
to me, we can tag that under that emergency for the ADA thing for the CapCon request, and if it doesn't, then they can use their maintenance, but
So
we'll leave
really,
it to the district to decide what they wanna do.
How long,
It would
so when would we have an answer on the capital side?
July 1st.
Well, yeah, if the commission approved it, you'd have, then it has to go through select,
It might be
then it has to go through the legislature.
Oh,
Yeah, it'd be July
still-
of,
You're 2 years down
it
the
would be
road.
July of
Easy.
19 when you would have the money available, you know, in March of 19.
Yeah.
A year from now, what we're talking is putting it in next session,
Mhm.
so.
And the latest you would need it would be the May commission meeting in Lovell.
Yeah, May 15th is sort of what we're putting the line in the sand, because we have some stuff to do and prepare everything. June is the commission's summary of it, everything we get compiled through facility planning. June, they review it. July, they approve it. August, it goes to IBAR, so the governor. And it goes to select committee.
Yeah.
So that's
So-
why we have things, all this
And
facility with you.
they've
and
changed
the state.
stuff up this year too, they're wanting, JAC's wanting to know capital requests at the same time that select is, so in October, it's like a Wednesday, Thursday, it's like the 22nd,
May
3rd
15th.
or something,
What's
or
your
Yeah.
3rd and 4th.
And
Prior to May 15th.
JC's meeting, and then the 25th, which is a Friday, I think, Select is meeting, but they want to have Select and JC kind of on the same page. So they've already got that meeting set up for Select and JC.
Here's a nice thing on
Thank
the-
you, Amber.
Thank you guys.
Sounds like you've already got budget estimates and costs.
So we got a planning study, a design, a cost estimate from the architect. Yeah, it's all ready to go.
Cool. So to meet the May 15th, that's simple. I
It's
just work with
easy
you
to
to get
do.
the stuff.
Just fill out whatever form you need to fill out.
Do you want that to funnel through you and then Brandon, both of you? How do you want to work that if they request it?
So give it to me,
Okay.
and then I'll work with Brandon.
Okay, we're good?
So what I put down, because I have a sheet that I'm keeping, I put down Natrona 1 Manor Heights elevator would be in the budget. Is that what I'm hearing?
Which we would have to get, just a letter to support this from the district to Paul
Right.
prior to next month's meeting.
But
Or
I'm assuming
May's
you've already got a budget sheet on it
Mhm.
for
Yes.
that component, so it'd be essentially there's a budget sheet already assembled.
Budget, the drawings, I'll get all that. Someone comes back, if I leave, say, where did he come up with that number?
So right
So
now,
here it
all
all
that stuff is attached to the AIM work request.
To that one.
Separate.
Yeah,
Nice.
it exists right there.
Cool.
It probably needs to be updated for cost per square foot and a few of those things.
Yeah, knock the dust off it.
Well, I was just told it was only going to cost 600, not 900.
How quick are you gonna come up to speed on the upgrade? Because that's the other part of this question is we may decide.
Well, what the plan is after we have this meeting, kind of figure out where we're headed, I want to send out a director's memo to the school districts, basically saying, here's the funding that we got, here's the changes in the statutes, and then probably there'll be some individual letters then come out addressing like this issue and some others. So the districts all know moving forward, here's the playing field.
Yep. And then it helps our project managers tremendously.
Sure.
So try to give you
I
guys a
think
little
part of
more
our
consistency.
decision
If
will
you guys
be
got the same letter
where
that
you end up
PM's
at.
got,
I
there
think
shouldn't
it's pretty
be any
straightforward.
question
It
on
says
how we're gonna
upgrade.
handle it.
I'm not sure how you're gonna.
Well, your
Say
choice,
something's not
but
an
I'd
upgrade.
pursue all options. You know, I wouldn't necessarily wait on one for the other one. I'd go after all of them, and whichever one comes up first or whichever works out best, that's the one you stick with, and withdraw the other one.
Yeah.
I'd go after everything you can.
Okay, that was good talk.
The only drawback that I see on a CapCon request is we may get asked by Select or somebody, do they have available funding through other means?
That's where I was
Particularly
going.
when you use the emergency word.
Right. And so
10 million in major maintenance.
Yeah, and if major maintenance is opened up, then it's like, you know,
That's what I was thinking.
yeah, superintendent's signature that says we have no other means by which to meet this need.
If we go through our annual report, they'll see all the balances of major maintenance. We do that first before we even talk about projects. So it'll be like 10 million or whatever.
Well, and then we'd also talk about what outstanding ones and twos they have.
It'd be bigger than 10 million for payments.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Well, if we don't hear from you, we'll know not to do it, and if we hear from you, we'll move forward.
we'll work together before just to double check and verify. For now, I put it on there so I don't forget it.
Right. Thank you.
This legislative session, Brandon.
So we talked about this one, but this is the study on House and Rolled Act 18 about the major maintenance and adjusting all that. But essentially doubled the payment, but a lot of it fizzled out. Only thing left is that 7-year phase in, which is, you guys, like you've been talking about, it's probably one of the best things. House and Rolled Act 17, some major maintenance calculation. Emergency funding can also be how it can be used. It can be on the site as well as the building. That was a little gray. Alternative design is approved by the commission now, instead of like at the department level. Let's see, on the major maintenance, one thing there is you're going to get 2 payments. You get one in July and one in September now, because we get the snapshot of the ADM in September. So it'll make it a little more accurate. And we finish facility planning like we're doing now. Double check square footage. So after here, we take a snapshot of the freshest, latest, greatest square footage, make the first payment, and then finalize that.
yeah, your first payment's 75% of what we think it's going to be, and then we make sure we get the right numbers for the second 25%.
The Enrolled Act number 5, we now have the State Construction Department, which was created in Senate Bill 92. Have the School Facilities Division and the Construction Management, but there's people like, Troy and I were all the workers, so we're all put in operations. So project managers, planning, finance, and the nice thing is the director could then say, this project manager's great at $100 million high school. It could be one of these guys that are on CM, and Paul could be a hospital guy, and he goes works on a hospital, and it gives us best utilization of the resources. So we've got that established. And then on the funding, I didn't see any capital projects coming through, but most of it all got, actually I thought it was pretty good as far as the appropriations. Got quite a bit. So the buckets, Dennis, are going away, back in the day. But they're getting more specific appropriations and tighter.
There's a lot more oversight, but, I think we did a good job of justification in the JC and stuff, and we actually, believe it or not, we got more money in the CapCon request on the state side, and we got more money in the school side than we asked for.
Yeah. Right.
So,
yeah, it was good.
I'm just disappointed in the major maintenance. We didn't get that upgrade, but oh well.
So I think we talked about Manor Heights. So time to close out the meeting. District, is there something that we haven't talked about that you'd like to discuss before we end the meeting?
Troy, I thought you did a better job this year than you did last. Oh, wait a minute, I wasn't here last year.
And I was thinking the same thing about
The system, in the 5 years that I've been doing this has improved markedly from where we were. So From what I'm seeing from the district's benefit, I think what your facilities are is getting captured much better here than it had been in the past.
I asked a question to you guys, maybe you know, we're still, like say, we're going over the bills Friday. There's a change in ADM, which is going to affect how we calculate major maintenance, because that's part of the major maintenance calculation.
That's ADM.
Yeah. So how is what's that looking like?
It'll affect us. So what it is currently ADM is calculated at the individual school level.
Okay.
In the new model, it goes up to the district level. So because of the 3-year rolling average, you can have a student who's in this school and then they move to this school. For 2 more years, they're hanging out in this school. They're also hanging out in this school, so you can get some double counting there. So the bigger districts, Cheyenne, Casper, and others, that's a change. It'll affect our operational funding approximately $1 million. Now they put in a kind of a stair step to lessen the impact of it. So I would expect that major maintenance payment to take a modest reduction, because our ADM is going to more true up to the quantity of kids that we currently.
Yeah, I was going to try and visit with WD and maybe visit with Matt, see what they think that's going to do on the major maintenance calculations, because we're going to have to change our formulas in the program to run all that.
I had the impression that Matt was trying to simulate that.
Okay.
In his estimates that he put out, but that was a quick conversation at the legislature.
Okay, anything else? Charlie, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, District, for joining us on the other end. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting. Thanks for your attendance, and we will meet again soon.
Thank you.
You betcha. Take care.
Travel.
Take care.
Me and Scott.
Bye-bye.
Bye.